Hey guys, how you doing? This is Rick. I've got a quick video for you regarding a 1993 F150, the 5.0 motor, and today the star of the show is this EGR valve and what is involved in getting it off. I don't know about you, but if you're faced with this job, it might look pretty intimidating due to the fact that everything's rusted and fragile looking, and like in my case, 93 truck here, and this is the original EGR valve. I was really concerned when I started getting into this that I was going to break this EGR tube. And so here's what I did to make it work. I got PB Blaster, and I got a little bit of time on my hands, so what I've been doing for the last 2 days is I haven't been flooding it, but I've been treating this threaded joint right here with PB Blaster. And I've just been doing it off and on throughout the day for the last 2 days. And as well as doing the mounting bolts. There's one there and one there, of course. And I even put a little bit on the sensor. There's 3 of these little tiny bolts. So anyways, I happen to have a set of large wrenches, and in this case this is a 1 1/16 fitting. So I got on there and I carefully, without jerking it, I got onto this thing and just pulled it towards me and broke it loose. Now the problem is, when I did break it loose, the top threaded part broke loose first, but the bottom did not. So the flex, the down tube started to flex. So I stopped before any damage could happen. And what I did is I just very carefully moved this bolt back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, gently. And sure enough, the bottom portion where it attaches here to the down tube broke loose. And as you can see, now we're good to go. So it's a flare fitting. And that's all there is to it. So now it'll be easy to take it off the rest of the way and replace it. And I don't know about you, I don't feel like doing this again for a long time, so I paid the extra money and got the Ford Motorcraft part. In fact, I do that on this truck because I just don't want to break down, because sometimes I go out four-wheeling with it and I don't want to. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I just can't have a breakdown. So I live in a remote area, so so anyways, getting back to this, the other thing I was concerned about breaking is this plastic fitting here. And what I did before I started messing with it is I simply treated it with not a flood, but just a small amount of WD-40 and let it sit on there for a little while. And then I carefully pried it off, and it came right off with no problem. That little extra lubrication just really helps get these fittings off, these electrical connectors, without breaking them. So I'm going to throw in a couple of extra items here for you, and just in case you want to know. You'll notice the throttle body's missing. Here it is here. This is what it looks like when it's all cleaned up. I took this thing off, and this thing was all carboned up so bad. And what I needed to do was to change the throttle position sensor. Here it is. That's what it looks like. It's on the bottom. So if this were mounted back onto the truck, this would be the very bottom of the unit, and here it is. It just comes off with two screws. You just unscrew it and put the new one on. The only other thing to be aware of is you've got this coolant line here, and in my case I did not break this loose because I was afraid I would split it or something. And the trouble is, look at this thing. I mean, this is a factory part. It's press fitted into a metal part, and that goes all the way down to where the radiator cap is. So I'm sure this is a $95 part to get it from, and I'm sure it's dealer only. So I didn't mess with that. And by the way, here's the other fitting where, it's got water flowing through it, so, or coolant flowing through it. Well, this is a simple enough hose right here to replace, and that one was all dry and cracked, and actually it was leaking. I didn't even know it. Had a little crack in it. I didn't realize it was leaking. So let me throw in a couple of other little tidbits here. this is a great opportunity since I got all this room. I thought, well, heck, I'll take the thermostat out, put it back together, and then with the thermostat out, I'll just take my garden hose and I'll back flush the entire block, and I'll go ahead and flush out my cooling system. So, sounds easy enough, right? Well, turns out, let me get my screwdriver. Thermostat housing, okay, top bolt, that's easy enough to get to, but the bottom bolt's the problem. And the thing is that there are two different lengths. The top one is longer, or should be longer, than the bottom bolt. That bolt down here has to be shorter because there's a clearance issue between in this space, because the timing chain cover and water pump assembly is in your way. So the way there was no way to put a socket on this, so I had to use a box end wrench, and that's how I did it. Now, of course, can you imagine breaking this thing? And I've read online some people have. You got to take all this off, man. You got to take the timing chain cover off to get access so that you can take a straight shot and drill that out. So, you know, what I did to avoid that, our little buddy PB Blaster, man, I've been treating it with that and letting it soak in. And then when I did get onto that thing with my wrench, which, by the way, these are not metric, these are SAE still. Just, man, I was really careful. Very, very gently applied pressure to it. Once I got it to move, I would move it back and forth a little bit. And it, it broke loose okay and everything's okay. But that's just something to be aware of. When you put this back together again, make sure that the longer of the two bolts goes on the top. The shorter will go down there. And one final word. This whole thing has been kind of a discovery process, and I found out, because I'm flushing my cooling system, that not all conventional green coolant is the same these days. I would suggest look it up. Do a little research on this subject. And here's what I found, okay? I found that there's a couple of people still making the old green stuff. It's easy enough to find. But I found out that the long life stuff is different. Well, obviously it's different because it's long life, right? Well, the difference is in the compounds of what they make it out of. And the difference is something called, I hope I'm getting this right, IOC versus OAC. And if you research it, you'll discover what I'm talking about. In this particular case, I've got AutoZone. It says right here, conventional, but this is the conventional with the green cap, okay? To the best of my knowledge, for a 93 truck, a vintage vehicle this age and this vintage, this is actually the correct coolant, not the long life. I don't know what would happen if you put long life in. I've read that it could possibly affect gaskets and things like that. I've actually, truthfully, I've had a mixture of stuff in here because I run low, throw something in there, just keep going, because it's my work truck. But now I'm flushing it and trying to really make it correct. And I'll tell you, man, everything's become more complicated with cars, including the simple old regular green coolant. So it's the foundation of what they make it with, and I'm pretty sure this is correct. AutoZone, conventional, green cap. But do a little research before you start changing stuff on your car. But anyways, I hope this has been informational and informative and helpful. I'm sure there's somebody out in YouTube land that probably could use this information. The EGR valve, thank God, if you're careful, you don't have to break this thing. It will come off if you're careful. So I will follow up with a video and show you a quick look of what it looks like when it's all back together. Okay, I hope that helps. We'll catch you later. See ya. Bye-bye.